fixing my hair so that I don't touch it for the rest of the time. Hello, I am back. There's a hair in my mouth now. Okay, stop being weird, Daph. So I asked you guys over on Instagram some topics that you were interested in hearing me talk about, and I got overwhelmed with answers. Overwhelmed in a good way. I got so many responses back from you guys, and I have saved all of them, and I'm so excited to talk about all these things. So I'm just gonna try and like slowly chip away at all the topics you sent me over the next couple of weeks, because I got well over 100 answers. So I thought a good one to start with is dealing with weight gain. So I just thought I could share a little bit about my experience with it. Obviously all of this comes from a place of my own experience. You know, it's funny because I was going through my phone the other day looking at pictures, because I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this. Oh, so many memories are wrapped up in all of my old pictures. I mean, as with any picture, but I feel like every picture I look at when I was going through my eating disorder holds a very specific memory. Like, I can remember the event because of the specific anxieties that I was dealing with. Like, oh yeah, I remember that picture because I was feeling this way about my body then, or I remember that because I was really scared about going out to that dinner. Like, I have these memories that are imprinted onto every picture that correlate with my disorder. And so I was going through my camera roll the other day because I was trying to figure out, like, when was it that I really started stepping into recovery? Because for me, I relapsed so many times, and you know, I was really young when I first started recovery. I think I was probably 16 or 17. I was probably 16 or 17 years old. It got really blurry for me because a lot of the times in the beginning it was my parents telling me, you have to recover or you can't do this. They would give me this ultimatum, and I would make a little progress in recovery, and then I would always relapse and slide back harder and deeper than I had previously. I was trying to really differentiate, like, when was the moment that it became that I chose recovery for myself? When was the moment that it was like, this isn't because my parents are telling me to do it because of any other outside pressures other than, like, I want this recovery? And I think I really pinpointed the moment. It was September, it was September 26th of, I have the actual literal date. September 4th, I was wrong. September 4th of 2016. And this was the picture that made me remember it. So, September 4th of 2016. And I promise you this all ties into weight gain. There's a reason I'm talking about it. And the reason that I remember that day is because my sister was playing soccer for her college, and her team traveled out here to California to play a game in Santa Barbara, and I drove 2 hours to Santa Barbara to go watch her play soccer. And I remember this very visceral moment, and you know, I had attempted recovery at least 5 or 6 times at this point, and I had backslid so hard each time. And I remember this, it was cold in Santa Barbara because it's by the beach, so it was September and it was windy and it was chilly, so I was wrapped up in, you know, my jacket, and it was cold, and I was watching my sister play soccer, and I was just watching all of these women on the soccer field in their early 20s, and I just had this moment, I don't know what it was, this feeling just like passed through my body of, look at all of these strong, powerful women. I mean, I knew nothing about them, of course, I'm projecting my own thoughts onto them, but I was just looking at all their strong bodies, like, playing on this soccer field in the windy, chilly weather, and I was standing there staring at my sister, just feeling so much pride and love for her. And then I had this realization of looking at myself. I am robbing myself of this. I am robbing myself of the experience of being a strong, powerful woman who can do things like play soccer on a soccer field in the windy, chilly fall and enjoy life. I don't have this joy for life. Look at how joyful these women are, and I am so miserable. And I just had this feeling and sensation of I don't have to live my life this way. And I had had similar thoughts like this before, you know, because I had attempted recovery, but it never stuck. And I remember this moment so viscerally of the feeling sticking in my body. I talked about this the other day, from dropping into head space to heart space, understanding that recovery was possible and knowing that recovery is possible, and having no idea of how I was going to get there, having no idea of how I was going to achieve that, but knowing that I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna freaking do this thing. I am going to recover come hell or high water. And of course, it did not happen right away. It took a lot of work. It took so much work. And the reason I bring this up and the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because what I think wasn't working for me before, the reason I think recovery never stuck, or the reason I relapsed so many times, well, one, because I wasn't recovering for myself, but two, it was always at the point where weight gain set in. And that's bringing it full circle why I'm talking about this right now. Because recovery when I was really underweight, recovery when my health was really in danger. The threat of weight gain felt okay when I was severely underweight. The threat of weight gain felt, it was something that I wanted, I would champion for, like, yes, I'm gaining weight, I'm gaining weight, I'm gaining weight, this is great, this is great, this is great, I love it, I love it, I love it, this is what I've been fighting for, this is recovery. And then every time I'd reach that point where the weight gain would start getting too real, you know? Just before weight restoration, just before my body started really changing, just before things really, you know, set in motion, it was like all of a sudden I would get blindsided by this intense fear of like, no, 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 this is too much, this is too much, this is not what I signed up for. That's why I wanted to talk about the things that actually helped me in my recovery this time around that made the weight gain easier to deal with. Having a strong reason why I wanted to recover. I know that seems pretty simple and pretty basic, but I think it's something that we forget a lot during recovery. We get so focused on all of the changes and all of the hardships and all this and that, and we forget why we're doing it in the first place. And it doesn't have to be a big why, but it has to be a strong why. You don't need some big reason why you're recovering, but the reason has to really hit home for you. It has to touch something within you. And I talk about this a lot on my channel, but for me that was thinking about my younger self and thinking about the future children that I wanted to have someday. That was like the deepest why for me. Every time I wanted to give up, I would think about that. I would think about little Daphne. I have these pictures on my phone that I would go back to and I would stare at, and I would be with that little Daphne and I'd be like, oh, I can't give up. No matter how much I wanted to, I would get so pissed off because I wanted to. It would be so much easier to relapse. And I couldn't do it because of that little girl and that little girl I wanted to have someday in the future. And I would just think about them and my heart would melt, and it would remind me to be compassionate and loving like I would be to a child. And I think that was the second most helpful thing that helped me in dealing with weight gain and recovery is self-compassion and self-care and treating myself like I would a child. I had this therapist say to me that I could be my own mother. It was something that I didn't fully understand at the time. I was like, well, how can I be my own mother? Through practice and through doing it over and over again, I have really come to learn that it is basically the mother archetype. You take on the role of both the mother and the child, and you nurture yourself like you would a child. A child's hungry. You know, you scream at a child and tell them they're a terrible person for asking for food, that they're a failure for being hungry. Like, you would never do that to a young child. You would never look in some innocent child's eyes and scream at them and call them a failure and a screw up and how dare they be hungry. So when you treat yourself like a child, you're like, well, I can't scream at myself for being hungry. It's just a child. You just need some food. Dealing with weight gain, when I would look in the mirror and hate myself, and think that I was so fill in the blank of words of unlovable, unworthy, disgusting, all of these attributes that we tie to our body. I would go into that realm of like, I'm gonna be my own mother, I'm gonna be my own mother. Think of, I am my own child right now. How would I speak to her? How would I speak to my child? Would I call her worthless? Would I call her unlovable? Would I call her a failure? Would I call her disgusting? Absolutely not. And so it was this practice of self-soothing, of self-compassion. I was watching Jessica Flint's video about like her 5 recovery tips, and one of them that I used in my own recovery, which I think is so helpful, is self-soothing, of literally physical touch, soothing yourself, putting your hand on your heart and stroking yourself, brushing your hair like you are your own mother, like you are your mother brushing your hair, taking a bath, being kind to yourself, all these things that take that anger and that fear and that frustration and turn them towards more compassionate side, that helps soothe that anxiety. Because ultimately that's what the compulsions to use these self-destructive behaviors are coming from. They're coming from a place of fear, from a place of lack, from a place of fight or flight, of death, all of these things. It's just heightened anxiety. So when we can put in these practices in place, when we can turn towards healthy coping mechanisms versus unhealthy coping mechanisms, it is so much more helpful, obviously. So that was the second thing that really helped me dealing with weight gain. The third thing that really helped me, that also kind of ties into that last thing, was when I learned about the divine feminine. And the divine feminine is not something that is strictly gender-based. It applies to everyone. It is like the yin and the yang. It is being versus doing. Doing being masculine, being feminine. Eating disorders are very much living in the realm of the masculine. It's doing all the time. And learning about the divine feminine and how I never lived in that polarity. I was always in the masculine energy. And putting practices into my life that helped me drop into the feminine energy, that helped me drop into the beingness, helped me deal with weight gain so much. I cannot even tell you. It was the biggest game changer for me. It gave me back a relationship with my body that I never had before. It gave me the power to be in my body. It gave me, all of a sudden I was so proud to have the body that I had. Even, you know, not all the time. I definitely had moments of body dysmorphia and all this, that, and the other, but I now had something to turn to. I now had this practice that I could look at, and a lot of that was through embodying the different divine feminine archetypes. When I needed to feel strong, I could embody the queen energy. I could embody the goddess energy. When I needed to feel nurtured, I could embody the mother archetype. And also, this does strictly apply to being a woman, but it made me feel good about being a woman, which was not something I ever felt capable of. I never looked at myself as a woman previously. And the last thing that I'm going to say that really helped me is finding role models in my life that fit where I was at on my journey, which meant finding women to look up to who had bodies like mine, who were living lives that I aspired to live, that made me feel joyful and happy, and women that when I looked at them, I didn't even see their body. I saw their beautiful smile and their funny personality, like whatever it was, but to stop viewing bodies in general as a purely aesthetic thing. I think that's a big thing, is like of changing this mindset of bodies are purely aesthetic to bodies are just a vehicle through which we get to experience life. I get to live in this body not so that I can spend all of my time shaping it and perfecting it, but so that I can have relationships and kiss the people I love and pet my dog and laugh and yeah, enjoy some delicious food and dance and do all of the things, travel, whatever it is, but like really viewing my body as not just this purely aesthetic thing that I have to spend all of my time fixing. Finding role models that aligned with that, which is so important on social media, like not following the people that I looked at them just because, oh my god, their body is so amazing. Like, no, taking all of that out of my life, putting in role models that I saw myself in. And all of these things didn't mean that I never had body image problems, that I didn't have days where I didn't like my body, that I didn't have thoughts of, oh my god, my body is the worst. But in those moments when I hated my body, when I didn't like it, and when I was tearing it down, I could stop. I could be with myself, and I could turn to one of these things. I could pull one of these things out of my bag of tricks and say, great, I am feeling a lot of fear and dislike of my body right now, so I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go think about this. I'm gonna go practice this instead of relapsing. And that was the #1 thing that helped me get over the hump of weight gain, past weight restoration, past overshoot, all of that other stuff, you know, and keep going and push through all of that and know that I have so many other things going on in my life other than just this body. I offer these things to you guys in the hopes that maybe they will help some of you too, but of course everyone's recovery is different, and of course what works for me is not going to work for other people. My recovery path was very much a spiritual path. Those are the things that helped me so much, is finding spiritual practices that helped take me out of my thinking mind. Don't feel like because it works for me but didn't work for you that there's something wrong with you. It's just not how it works. You just find what works for you. This video is now going to be way too long, and I'm probably going to have to edit it down. What are you going to do? I hope you guys know that you were not placed here to simply have an aesthetically pleasing body, that your presence here on earth is so much more important than some body. So anyways, that's the end of my spiel. Stay tuned for more chit chat videos. I